Hello again guys, Damien Jones here again for you today, and today I thought we'd look at something a little bit different. This right here is a Victorian mechanical money box. I'll just twizzle him around so you can take a good look. Now these, believe it or not, are quite, well, rather popular. This is the Jolly Nigger Bank, okay, and it was made, or first invented and patented in 1882 by J.E. Stevens, okay. We'll discuss prices and things of what these things fetch, but first of all, here he is, and although you will see these things repainted an awful lot because they're made out of cast iron, mine has the original paint. I'm lucky enough to boast that, as you can see, the original paint, and you know, for its age it's held up pretty well, you know. Let's discuss him. If we turn him around, we can see on the back the Jolly Nigger Bank and a patent mark and number. And as I say, I checked that patent mark and number, which is why I have all the details on it and stuff, and I've researched this thing. Now, these can fetch anything from 30 to £160, even more, dependent on condition. Some of them, if we look on top here, this one's got a screw hole in the head. That's to accommodate a cast iron top hat that some of them have. These holes in the ears, these are just for screws, but I've seen people put earrings in them and stuff, but they are just for screws. Yeah, so we'll try him out for you. We'll have a bit of a play with him, and I'll show you what he does. You take your coin, you pop them in Jolly's hand, and at the back of his other arm here is a lever, and his eyes roll up in the back of his head, and he swallows it, and then obviously you pull the lever down and it returns his hand. So we'll see that again. You put the money in his hand, thus, and he gobbles it up. And these things were very, very popular back in the day. They would have been quite expensive as well. You know, these are the sorts of things you'd find in the nurseries of Victorian middle class kids. They were made obviously in America to begin with, and they became very, very popular over here in Britain too. Let me see. Now, as I say, they were originally patented by J.E. Stevens in 1882, and the original line, which this is of, ran to about 1892, and thereafter, you know, other companies around the world started to make these as well. Yeah. Now, they are a bit racist, I do have to say. You know, they are a bit, by today's standards anyway, but by Victorian standards, you know, you're playing a different ball game, you know. This was a long time ago. You know, this is history, and I think it's important to keep, you know. This type of design, you know, almost ape-like African guy, you know, it's sort of like the forerunner of the gollywogs, which are, you know, were all very, very innocent over here in Britain anyway, until the early 1990s. You know, you've got to just look at it like that. I mean, a lot of people find this toy incredibly offensive, and I can understand that by today's standards. It probably, well, it actually is, isn't it? You know, a lot of people get offended by a lot of things these days, and you know, there's no bigger bugbear than racism, is there? But you've got to remember, this was made originally in 1882. I reckon my one, judging by the paint and everything, would probably be around the 1890s, 1900, this one. So it is of the first line. Believe it or not, though, these banks were replicated and altered and renamed and all the rest of it until the 1930s, you know. I mean, in many British attic clearances, you'll find this same toy replicated as a clown. I've seen it more recently replicated as a skeleton. And this itself, the Jolly Nigger, although it is renamed now, it's named Jolly Boy now, as that's a lot more PC. It's replicated even now. Now, if you want a modern reproduction of one of these, you can probably expect to pay around 40 quid for one, I'd say. You want an original one like this? Shop around, I'd say, because they can get very expensive. And also watch out for reproductions as well, if you are a connoisseur of, you know, the originals. And well, there he is. I think it's a marvellous toy. I love the simplicity of the mechanism. And I just had to have one. The only thing about my one that is wrong is I've had to put a plastic bung in the bottom because the original cast iron one is missing, you see, so I had to measure it up and put a modern one in there so we didn't lose the coins. But I think he's a great little chap. I think he's got a lot of character, and he works well too. I do love mechanical banks. Eat that money. Give you another look again. I love his afro. I love his afro hair. I love his face as well. I think he's got a great face. The caricature-ish proportions of his lips and his big ears and stuff. I just think he's great. He always gives me a chuckle, and well, when I saw one of these going cheap, I had to have one, and now I do. I had this thing about, I've had this thing about 4 years now, and he's holding up pretty well. So there he is, guys. The Jolly Nigger by J.E. Stevens from about 1890-ish. Marvellous. Thanks for watching, guys. See you on the next one.